Chapter 4 of Book 15 of Les Misérables, Volume 4, by Victor Hugo. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Algie Pug. Les Misérables, Volume 4, by Victor Hugo. Translated by Isabel Florence Hapgood. Book 15, The Rue de l'Homme Armé. Chapter 4, Gavroche's Excess of Zeal. In the meantime, Gavroche had had an adventure. Gavroche, after having conscientiously stoned the lantern in the Rue de Chaume, entered the Rue de Vieilles Haudriettes, and not seeing even a cat there, he thought the opportunity a good one to strike up all the song of which he was capable. His march, far from being retarded by his singing, was accelerated by it. He began to sow along the sleeping or terrified houses these incendiary couplets. L'oiseau me dit dans la chemise et prétend qu'il attela avec une rousse et là où vont les belles filons là. Mon ami Pierrot tout babillé parce que l'autre jour mille là. Cogne sa vitre et met pas là où vont les belles filons là. Les drôles sont fort gentils, l'air poison qui met sur là. Grisez monsieur au fila, où vont les belles filons là. J'aime l'amour et les bisbilles, j'aime Agnès, j'aime Pamela. Lisons l'amant, c'est brûlant, où vont les belles filons là. Jadis, quand j'ai vu les mentis des ousettes et des élas, mon âme le plus aimait là, où vont les belles filons là. Amour, quand dans l'ombre où tu brilles, tu coiffes tes roses d'eau là. Je me donnerai pour cela, où vont les belles filons là. Viens à ton miroir tout habillé, mon cœur un beau jour s'envola, et crois que c'est Jean-Guy-là, où vont les belles filons là. Le soir en sortant des quadrilles, je montrai aux étoiles celle-là, et je le dis, regardez là, où vont les belles filons là. Gavroche, as he sang, was lavish of his pantomime. Gesture is the strong point of the refrain. His face, an inexhaustible repertory of masks, produced grimaces more convulsing and more fantastic than the rents of a cloth torn in a high gale. Unfortunately, as he was alone, and as it was night, this was neither seen nor even visible. Such wastes of riches do occur. All at once he stopped short. "Let us interrupt the romance," said he. His feline eye had just descried, in the recess of a carriage door, what is called in painting an ensemble, that is to say, a person and a thing. The thing was a handcart, the person was a man from Auvergne who was sleeping therein. The shafts of the cart rested on the pavement, and the Auvergnat's head was supported against the front of the cart. His body was coiled up on this inclined plane, and his feet touched the ground. Gavroche, with his experience of the things of this world, recognized a drunken man. He was some corner errand man who had drunk too much, and was sleeping too much. "There now," thought Gavroche, "that's what the summer nights are good for. We'll take the cart for the Republic, and leave the Auvergnat for the monarchy." His mind had just been illuminated by this flash of light. How bully that cart would look on our barricade! The Auvergnat was snoring. Gavroche gently tugged at the cart from behind, and at the Auvergnat from the front, that is to say, by the feet, and at the expiration of another minute the imperturbable Auvergnat was reposing flat on the pavement. The cart was free. Gavroche, habituated to facing the unexpected in all quarters, had everything about him. He fumbled in one of his pockets, and pulled from it a scrap of paper and a bit of red pencil filched from some carpenter. He wrote: French Republic. Received thy cart. And he signed it, Gavroche. That done, he put the paper in the pocket of the still snoring Auvergnat's velvet vest, seized the cart shafts in both hands, and set off in the direction of the Halles, pushing the cart before him at a hard gallop with a glorious and triumphant uproar. This was perilous. There was a post at the royal printing establishment. Gavroche did not think of this. This post was occupied by the National Guards of the suburbs. The squad began to wake up, and heads were raised from camp beds. 2 street lanterns broken in succession, that ditty sung at the top of the lungs. This was a great deal for those cowardly streets, which desire to go to sleep at sunset, and which put the extinguisher on their candles at such an early hour. For the last hour that boy had been creating an uproar in that peaceable arrondissement, the uproar of a fly in a bottle. The sergeant of the banlieue lent an ear. He waited. He was a prudent man. The mad rattle of the cart filled to overflowing the possible measure of waiting, and decided the sergeant to make a reconnaissance. There's a whole band of them there, said he. Let us proceed gently. It was clear that the hydra of anarchy had emerged from its box, and that it was stalking abroad through the quarter. And the sergeant ventured out of the post with cautious tread. All at once, Gavroche, pushing his cart in front of him, and at the very moment when he was about to turn into the Rue des Vieilles Haudriettes, found himself face to face with a uniform, a shako, a plume, and a gun. For the second time he stopped short. "Hullo!" said he, "it's him. Good day, public order." Gavroche's amazement was always brief and speedily thawed. "Where are you going, you rascal?" shouted the sergeant. "Citizen," retorted Gavroche, "I haven't called you bourgeois yet. Why do you insult me?" "Where are you going, you rogue?" "Monsieur," retorted Gavroche, "perhaps you were a man of wit yesterday, but you have degenerated this morning." "I ask you, where are you going, you villain?" Gavroche replied: "You speak prettily. No, really, no one would suppose you as old as you are. You ought to sell all your hair at 100 francs apiece. That would yield you 500 francs." "Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going, bandit?" Gavroche retorted again: "What villainous words! You must wipe your mouth better the first time that they give you suck." The sergeant lowered his bayonet. "Will you tell me where you are going, you wretch?" "General," said Gavroche, "I'm on my way to look for a doctor for my wife, who is in labor." "To arms!" shouted the sergeant. The master stroke of strong men consists in saving themselves by the very means that have ruined them. Gavroche took in the whole situation at a glance. It was the cart which had told against him. It was the cart's place to protect him. At the moment when the sergeant was on the point of making his descent on Gavroche, the cart, converted into a projectile and launched with all the latter's might, rolled down upon him furiously, and the sergeant, struck full in the stomach, tumbled over backwards into the gutter, while his gun went off in the air. The men of the post had rushed out pell-mell at the sergeant's shout. The shot brought on a general random discharge, after which they reloaded their weapons and began again. This blind man's buff musketry lasted for a quarter of an hour, and killed several panes of glass. In the meanwhile, Gavroche, who had retraced his steps at full speed, halted 5 or 6 streets distant, and seated himself, panting, on the stone post which forms the corner of the Enfants Rouges. He listened. After panting for a few minutes, he turned in the direction where the fusillade was raging, lifted his left hand to a level with his nose, and thrust it forward 3 times, as he slapped the back of his head with his right hand, an imperious gesture in which Parisian street urchindom has condensed French irony, and which is evidently efficacious, since it has already lasted half a century. This gaiety was troubled by one bitter reflection. "Yes," said he, "I'm splitting with laughter, I'm twisting with delight.